co-founder of Wunder. Wunder is the first decentralized museum of new media art. Decentralized in a way that it's a museum that can come to your house rather than you going to the museum. So why did we come up with the project? There is a huge disconnect in support for this artists working in the realm of digital art. It has all to do on the technical side by a lack of trust, and that's where for us the blockchain layer comes in. But it also has to do of art in general and media art specifically being an illiquid market that has its disadvantages these days, and we can only open it up if we mix it with people that also have access in rent format, in temporary rights. So what do we understand by media art? It's anything that's born digitally. By that we mean it can be video art, moving image, still art, sound art, but it goes on to augmented reality, virtual reality, the immersive art. And yeah, basically we built Wunder in order to eliminate the barriers that are currently there in the art world, and we will do that by empowering patrons to connect and support artists directly in a meaningful way, and creating a sustainable market for them. So that's the first. Another biggest problem is that the art world it's all about context, like many other industries, but specifically the art world. And museums are the gatekeepers, involuntarily, but they are not well equipped and suited to handle these media art forms, given that they are built for traditional media like paintings and so on. So the centralized venues are not adept for the media art that we would like to present. Again, the decentralized factor comes into play here because it can be best experienced and viewed from the comfort of your home. It's crippling, this disconnect is crippling the creative opportunities for artists, and it's estimated that 95% of the artists currently working in new media art either have to find a second job for teaching or also do painting, because the gallery will tell them, bring me a painting because I can't sell these digital works. So that's a huge problem for them. I've talked a little bit about the technical side, about an end-to-end platform that we developed for that. But at the core of what we built is what we call the patron protocol. And this protocol is based on the principle that you will now be the exclusive owner of a work of art, it's editioned art, of a few copies of art, that you will be the exclusive owner, and that millions of other people can also be temporary owners, the peer-to-peer economy. So we maintained the exclusivity in the art world, but added to that the advantages and the value that we create in having access to people that only want to have temporary access to these works and don't want to call themselves owners or collectors anymore. This is at the core, the artist is at the core of the whole protocol. On the left side you see in the patron protocol there are always 8 owners of permanent access rights, which are transferable in ownership. And on the left side you see our business model through B2B and B2C partners will access the rent for this art. And I'll come to that later, what it means for owning art that also yields a dividend. So we present 5 disruptions for the art world. The second is then trust and transparency through our smart contracts. Currently, where we have built everything on Ethereum, because we have everything working off-chain, but we are testing now with Ethereum, and should there be something better tomorrow, then we might test that as well. But for the time being, Ethereum is serving the purpose for our needs. The decentralized structure is probably, in our case, the most disruptive in the long term. In the short term, for us, it's a bit complicated because it's not regulated if you talk about the limited edition copies for the angel patrons, some of these works cost easily 50 to 100,000 euros. So you can imagine if they are decentralized and nobody is responsible for where they are, that institutions and high net worth collectors will not like that. So they still always want a centralized place where it's a bit like your cold storage for your key in crypto, that you want to be certain that it's always there for you and not hijacked by somebody else. What it boils down to is that it will create more liquidity in, as I said before, in an illiquid market, because the proceeds from this rental revenue will be shared with all the stakeholders in any work. So that means that the artist shares from the revenue from this temporary access rights. Wunder Foundation also benefits, but what it also means is that the pool of 8 angel patrons for any given work generates 20% of the rental revenue. So it means that you now for the first time can invest in scalable art that will bring financial dividends other than emotionally, intellectually, or intrinsically. And that makes it really suitable for family offices, institutions, and alternative passion investment seekers as a store of value. The biggest disruption that we'll probably propose in our system is that we provide artist acceleration, where in the traditional way, as I already mentioned, the problems that new media artists face today is that in our platform with a global reach, we have immediately access to the right people, meaning that 8 copies of a work in monthly exhibitions are easily sold to angel patrons. So that's for the artists, a way to recoup the investments of the work, and then from then on it can infinitely start building patrimonium on rental revenue. But we'll accelerate them in a way that was never possible before, and is only enabled by the internet and adding trust to that and the function of a network. So that's very exciting for the artist. And the Wunder infrastructure consists of 4 layers. In the beginning we have the expertise layers that is currently consist of curators that select the monthly works that will be presented in exhibitions. So that's 5 works every month that we will present, and they are also commissions. This guarantees that we have the best works from the best artists working in this realm, and that we present works that you don't find anywhere else. We don't want to duplicate YouTube or whatever. It has to be content or art, not being disrespectful, that you don't find anywhere else. That's our brand. Wunder has to be the brand that it's really the amazing, the astonishment. So that's at first instance it will be undertaken by a pool of curators, but also will move into artificial intelligence later on in that domain. The distribution layer, I think that as already mentioned, is based on Ethereum ERC20, nothing special there. The storage layer is that, mentioned before, is that the works are converted in our centralized system and kept in an archival copy, and also a conservation copy for later use and conversion in future streaming friendly copies. But the streaming friendly copies today and before, for example, are distributed via IPRS, so that makes it already decentralized. And then the application layer, that's in our second phase, that we currently have EOS player for iPad. That's the main device of preference, because it's a great tool that allows the arts already be seen in a way like the artist intends. Specifically, what you see is Natalie is holding now the iPad Pro, which has 4 Harman Kardon speakers built in it and makes the sound very immersive and really gives a good impression of what you can expect if you project the work or see it on screen. It's a bit like how media art is displayed these days in museums or in galleries, if they do it. It's very immersive. From there on, in second stage, we want to open the end-to-end platform from Art Plus as open source, and also the application layers and the protocol, and make it a protocol token, so that anybody can use our technology and the infrastructure. But that's in that case we use Wunder as a use case to show what is possible with this technology. Our timeline, we started in 2015 as a result of an exhibition that we did online. I'll get to that in a minute. And that exhibition online with 29 of the leading curators from leading museums, we found that, I can go there, is that we learned that the most interesting artists working in this realm were very reluctant to share their art for obvious reasons, lack of trust. The internet is the biggest copy machine, so that's how we started building the Art Plus infrastructure to protect it. Otherwise, we bumped into a wall. So that led also to when we had the end-to-end platform, we also realized we needed a protocol that was more suited for a digital era and not lending its ingredients from historical ways and agreements to monetize art in edition format, because they're not suited. It's totally ridiculous to fall back on for example, distribution rights in film, where any collector can say, I'm the only one in Germany that can have one copy of this work and nobody else can have that. That's not how the internet works, where people like to share and where the artist benefits from the viral effect of making something immediately accessible anywhere for somebody that wants to enter the network. So that's at the basis of our patron protocol, and that led to that we were a bit fed up waiting for the galleries to respond to this, because they're very friendly people, but they don't want any change. So why don't they want any change? Because their main clients, the museums and the collectors, don't want any change. So that led to the use case, Wunder Museum. We go around them and go to the crowd, where people will pay for access on temporary basis, and that will provide the liquidity that the artists can do without, and offer and sell their art on their terms, rather than playing it by a few minority of gatekeepers. So how does the timeline further look? We have our Wunder Alpha ready, and now started with very proud to be part of the first batch of the selected companies in the Iconic Lab accelerator, which will lead us to our pre-ICO in somewhere in April, and to our ICO somewhere in June. That's the planning. And as I said before, the works are commissioned, so that means that we need to plan well ahead to have the works available in the museum. So that means we will not open before the first quarter of 2019 with the first selection of works. And that's also the reason why an ICO for us was the biggest game changer, that allows us to build this collection with the support from the crowd, that supports the vision that the artists can really start making work that is suited for this medium. The market, currently the art market is something like 60 billion, but new media art is a fraction of that. But where as a spin-off, that's a multitude of factors much more interesting in this market, is that this art, being digital and scalable, traveling online, is that it opens new venues also for hospitality, interior design, fintech as a store of value, and also architecture. We see the evolution already happening, where architects and interior designers commission work from artists themselves, but that's one unique work and that they display in their lobby. But the market is, of course, there are billions of blank walls in companies and people at home that will want to display the art of today. So, what's the use of our token? It's why we need a token is that you can pay with WOOC for temporary access, and you can also be paid with WOOC from the revenue and the proceeds from that. for those stakeholders. You can also purchase private viewing rights. That's for the really serious collectors that they're willing to pay a premium to have a few days early access on the first works, so they can have first pick. And also for storing encrypted streaming copies into IPFS, where we allow people that have less means also to participate in this and make it really a truly democratic art market. If they share some space on their hard disk for streaming our friendly copies, then they can receive books and have free access to the works. It's also used to purchase ownership of the works for permanent access, and also used for selling them and the payout, which obviously, as you all know, in smart contracts the payout is rather instantly and with very low cost. So we're still working on the token issuance with Iconic Lab. Here you have an idea of how the planned revenue will be used. So that's at least 50% of the revenue generated from a token sale will be used to build the collection of the museum. So that's a major part. I think that's the main takeaway here. Yeah, we already mentioned that the founders, myself and Natalie, have extensive experience in the art world, having already created and sold art-related startups, and also organized the biggest online biennial with major museums that attracted more than 400,000 online visitors and got us immense reach in global press. So that teaches us firsthand that there is really a latent audience out there that really wants to engage with this new media art form, other than the low resolution stuff you see on YouTube or whatever, which is not appealing, which is not attractive. It's done deliberately because people are afraid that it's being copied. So we're very excited that we have the solution of Wunder to solve this with our great team. Vesna Petroshin, who was supposed to be here today but due to not. She's a famous new media artist, having displayed works already around the world, is also in major collections. Alana Voldman has extensive experience with art communication. Our team of developers, which are aces in JavaScript, but masters very fast Solidity, being very similar. And then we have our team of advisors, which is not complete. We will be adding a few more names later. But very proud and happy to have Björn Melhus, who's a Berlin-based new media artist and also professor of the University of Kassel for media art. He's also somewhat of the authority on augmented reality and virtual reality art. And has been advising us from day one and very enthusiastic about the project. And is also safeguarding the cultural message that we have in the museum, because obviously there's a lot of finance coming into this, and we need to maintain a well-balanced. It cannot be a marketplace. We have to remain a museum where it's possible to buy, but we're not a marketplace. Then we have Adriano Piccinato from the director of Deloitte Luxembourg, who is organizing an event, Art and Finance, annually that attracts the majority of all the family offices to these events, for family offices that traditionally already invest in art and now are more and more getting interested in getting into new media art, because obviously the prices are still low from these artists, and it makes a sound investment quality-wise, but also if the trust. So I'll quickly move on. Elizabeth Lazaro.
I don't want to bother you.
No. Professor Creative Economy, that's doing a white paper on all the stakeholders and what it means, the 4 chairs, for legs of the chair. We are very happy to have Barry Enderwick, who turned Netflix from a few 100,000 users to 25 million users. So he knows all about streaming content to houses. We have Chris Vroom, who is a leading American patron and also the founder of ArtSpace. And we have also Patrick Lowy, the founder and CEO of Iconic Lab. Very happy to have him. So yeah, that concludes the presentation. I thank you for your time. Any questions?